Hey Shams, welcome to the MasterCard Cup. Just want to give you an opportunity here to view your swing at regular speed. Let that play on through. We'll put you back in your dress position, and we'll go ahead and take a look at a few things for you. So while we got you back here in your dress position, let's take a look at your posture. Now your spine's nice and straight and on a tilt. Your legs come down into a bent position. You hold your arms out in front of you, and the golf club works out to the ball. So you've got some pretty good posture here. You do need to refine it a little. And how we would do that is basically, I need you to sort of push your tail out and up a little bit and push your sternum out and forward. I need your sternum and your head to be a little bit more out over your toes. So what that's going to do, it's just going to put your spine on a little bit more of an angle. The spine's already straight, but it needs to be on a bit more of a tilt. By getting your tail out and up, that'll take your legs from a bent position and just allow them to be unlocked. This changes your center of gravity now, because now your head and your sternum are a little bit more out over your toes. You're not bending your knees and sitting. Right now you're sort of sitting back on your heels. At that point we can let your arms hang down, maybe just to have your hands a little closer to your thighs, and then let the golf club work out to the ball. So we're going to increase the angle relationship between your arms and the golf club in here. So we're just really trying to revise the angles. We're trying to get your tail out, sternum and head forward, increase the angle to the spine. Now this is critical because the entire golf swing functions off that axis. The next thing is, it's going to now just take your legs from being bent into an unlocked position, and your center of gravity can be a bit more forward. And what we're going to notice is that the red stick man is closer to the golf ball than the yellow. So now we're going to be further away from the ball, which is going to help you with your spinal position, staying on the blue line when we get to impact. Okay, so right now you're starting too tall, a little too close to the ball, bending knees, sitting back away from the ball. This is going to majorly affect your impact position, and we'll get back to that in just a few seconds. Taking a look at your alignment's pretty good here. We don't really have to spend much time with it. Feet are running in this direction, carry it out to the fairway. Club face supposed to run parallel, your feet parallel, lines on camera have an appearance to converge. So we're pretty much set up maybe just down the left center of the fairway, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and do a little split screen comparison between you and Jordan Spieth. Got some color-coded lines on the screen just to use as a visual reference as it pertains to swing plane. So hopefully you can see with Jordan, right, legs aren't as bent, he's not sitting back on his heels, spine's tilted over a little bit more, better angle relationship between the arms and the club. So that's sort of what I was getting at. From here, as we initiate our takeaway, we want to turn our shoulders, draw our arms and hands back as well as the club. We want the club coming back along the red line on plane. Also in the early stages of the golf swing, we need to incorporate some good wrist hinge into play, which means we need to transition the club head currently from being below and in front of our hands to getting the club head above and behind our hands. So this little transitional hinge move right here is very, very important in the takeaway. From here, we're going to work the golf club from red up towards the blue-yellow V zone. When we finally set the club at the top of the backswing, we either want to have the left arm and the golf club situated on yellow, anywhere in between the yellow-blue V zone, or physically even up on blue, as we see with Jordan Spieth. We'll also want to have full shoulder rotation. We want to do this about a stable right leg, all the while maintaining the posture axis that we achieved at address. So I just want to point this out again. We can see with Jordan Spieth, at the top of his backswing, his spine is situated in a position of, let's call it, about 56 degrees. If we go back down to address, where's his spine? Yes, it's in the exact same position. So the whole idea is we achieve this axis so that when we rotate, we maintain it. So here we are, we create our rotation, we create our hinge, and we maintain that spinal position. Very, very important. As we watch you initiate your takeaway here, you draw your hands back nicely. Looks like one of the focal points that we would have to do or spend time on is making sure your grip is correct. I don't think your grip is correct. And it's going to inhibit your ability to create perhaps proper wrist hinge. So that's something we want to look into as well. As we're coming back here, we can see the club's coming back on a pretty decent plane, a little underneath and inside of the red line. We can see that you are very stiff-wristed with the golf club, so we are not creating proper wrist hinge. The club head is not getting above our hands. It's getting behind, but it's not yet getting above. There we go. We get a little bit above, but really not as much as it should be at this point in time. We're still almost virtually a straight line between your forearm, your left forearm, and the shaft of the club. Here we are, again, still very stiff-wristed with the golf club. So we have to have a proper grip, and we have to learn how to establish proper wrist hinge. From here, it looks like you're starting to work the golf club a little bit vertically instead of swinging the club still around you and making sure the arms get set in a shallow position. So as you continue to pick up your arms, looks like your arms are going to get to too steep of a position, and we'll see that in just a minute here. So once we get to the top of the backswing, we can see that you've turned all right, your shoulders, pretty stable right side and your right leg. Again, you are creating this rotational movement off of a spinal position that was too tall. Your arms are definitely too upright and vertical. Your left arm, I prefer it, like even though your left arm is on the blue line like Jordan's, your blue line is much more steep than his. And what I mean by that is, if we just sort of draw another blue line over the one that's there, sorry, let me undo that, we can see that your spinal, sorry, your blue line's at 59 degrees, and his is at 57. So it's only 2 degrees off, but your left arm is a little bit higher than the blue line than his. You're as much over top of it than he is underneath it. And the reality is I prefer amateur players to have their left arm down on the yellow line. This helps us come into the ball from on plane and return the club back to red. So because your arms are set too steep, and not only are they too steep, but they're breaking down. What that means is your right elbow's flying on you, your right forearm is compressing to your bicep, and that's causing your left arm to fold. And the golf club has overswung. We can see the club obviously reappearing down over here, where we can't see that with Jordan. His golf club is still up right here. Okay? So at the top, you have to definitely learn how to bring the golf club back and achieve a better set position with the arms and the golf club. From here, as we create our transition back into the golf ball, simply want to move our weight from our right foot to our left. We want to fire our knees and our hips laterally to the target. We want to unwind our core, and we want to fire our hands. And in doing so, we have to bring the club from the blue-yellow V zone back down onto red. And that's exactly what we can see here with Jordan Spieth. The golf club is returning back to being on plane. And this is the #1 criteria that allows us to produce straight golf shots. The other thing we want to look at here is the relationship between the lead forearm and the club. I refer to this as the backwards check mark. Right now, his club head is remaining above and behind his hands. So this is also going to allow us to create a lot of power. What I want you to note is if we go back down to address, I said a very important aspect of the takeaway is to create a hinge whereby the club head is going to move from being below and in front of our hands to getting that club above and behind. So there's the transition. Well, guess what we have? We have the exact same check mark. Only the left forearm is here with the club shaft on the exact same position. The only reason for that is we haven't maximized our wrist hinge right now, and we also haven't created an athletic move back to impact, which causes us to retain more angle, and that's why when he gets up to the top and returns back to the same position, he's got more lag, and that's why the forearm is on the bottom line versus the one I just showed you 2 seconds ago when he was bringing it back. But it virtually is the exact same position, and this is the most important aspect of a golf swing. Unfortunately, with your arms being steep like this, I just don't think you're going to be able to return the club back into this backwards check mark with the club on plane. So let's go ahead and watch you create your transition into the ball. So there's your over the top move. Hands are coming way over, and there's just no way that golf club is ever going to be able to return back to being on plane. So we can go ahead and mark your club head. We can see that it is not returning back to plane. And as we continue to track that club head coming to the ball, it's just going to fall further out in front, coming into the ball steep and over the top. So here we go, the club falls to here and is ultimately going to get stuck outside the ball. If I go ahead and connect the dots, this will give you a pretty good visual sense just how over the top and how steep that club came into the golf ball. Versus with Jordan Spieth, again, his club returned to plane here. That's your frame here. And his club continued to come into the golf ball directly from this red line. And again, like I said, this is what produces straight golf shots in accordance to our aim, assuming the club face squares up via having a good grip. Okay? So seeing that the downswing planes are vastly different, I mean, we can go ahead and take a look at the path of the club. What we know here is we know that with Jordan Spieth, just before he strikes the ball, his club was inside the ball. It's expanding out to make contact and moving through in a nice natural subtle arc. Your club, as we know, was coming from the outside over here, striking the ball, and watch where it continues to move, way inside. So if you were to happen to square the club face up to that path, you would hit the ball nice and solid. The problem is the golf ball is going to go way left on you. If you over-release the club relative to the same path, not only will you pull the ball, but will hit some form of a pull draw or pull hook. If we leave the club face a little bit open to the path, well, the nice thing is we can block the ball out to the right a little. By leaving the face open, we're imparting some left to right spin, and we'll be able to hit some form of a fade that stays on line. If we leave the club face too open, incredibly, we start the ball even further right, even though we're swinging to the left. At that point in time, we need to realize the club face was massively open, and we're going to hit some form of a block slice. So the end result of the golf shot is dictated based on the timing of the club face. Because the club is attacking the ball from outside, striking the ball, and moving to the inside, if we square the face up, it follows red. Over-release the club, it follows the smaller red arrows. Leave it wide open, follows blue. And if we time it properly, it'll follow yellow. I also want you to notice through impact here that your right foot is flat on the ground. So we really don't have any footwork moving through to the finish. We can see with Jordan through impact, his right heel's off the ground, and he continues to come up off that heel onto the toe of the right foot. That gets his weight on his left side, allowing his hips to square around and his shoulders to fully rotate. Let's see what you do, if anything, with your footwork. So your heel eventually starts to come off the ground a little, but you need to refine that so you get fully up on your toe, standing on your left side. One last thing I want to take a look at here is I want to get back to dealing with that spinal position. So I had mentioned to you at address that I wanted to change your posture. I wanted to get your spine tilted over more, get you standing up a little tall on your legs, get you a little further away from the golf ball. So what's happening here, if we go ahead and just mark your spine, remember I mentioned that you're going to create a rotational movement off this axis. Well, let me go ahead and put the yellow line on where I actually want your spine to be, and let's understand something. When you make your backswing, you rotate. Let's see if you maintain your axis. Well, you don't. You actually stand up. So you've actually now moved up further into this position now. Okay? So you started on red, you've moved to blue, yet you should be on yellow at the start and here. When we come back to impact, let's watch and see what happens. Sorry, it looked like the computer froze here. There we go. Okay, so we're coming into the golf ball. You now dive back down onto red, coming over the top, and now your head starts to pull further away from the ball, and now you start to pull up again, and you get basically back on blue. So if you started on red and you pulled up to blue, what's going to happen with the golf club? Well, it's going to be off the ground too much, and this is why you're topping the ball. Okay? So if we back this up, you're coming into the golf ball and you're basically hitting the top of the ball because you've pulled yourself up from where you started. Okay? So getting back to your spinal position, very important to create this rotational movement back and through, maintaining the posture the whole time. And that way you won't have this elevation change up and down and create these sort of mishits that we're having. Okay? So we would like to start on yellow. We like to create a rotational movement that stays on yellow. We like to unrotate back to impact, still on yellow, and stay on yellow for a long period of time through the ball until the finish. Then we can come up a little, but at the end of the day, we would probably just be going from yellow to blue after we get through the golf ball. Okay, but we can't get there at point of impact. Anyway, at any point in time you ever want to work on any of these aspects of your golf game, certainly feel free to reach out. I'm over at Glen Abbey in Oakville. Be happy to structure a program for you. Also, if you're involved with any golf tournaments at all, looking for a unique gift to provide to your guests, feel free to touch base. Be happy to discuss my swing analysis services. Anyways, I hope you had a fabulous day, and I hope you enjoyed getting an opportunity to see your swing on video. Take care.